Welcome, brothers and sisters. It's my pleasure to have you again for this devotion, especially as we are starting a new theme about Pentecost. Pentecost is an important feast, a Christian feast. I don't like to call it Christian feast because when God gave to the children of Israel the seven feasts, He didn't call it the Feast of Israel. He didn't call it the Feast of Christians. These were called Feast of the Lord, Feast of the Lord, which speaks about the host of this feast. The host of this feast is God Himself, because these feasts are about Him, not about us. We are guests. We are invited to this celebration, the celebration of this feast of the Lord. So this is an important thing to know, because most of the time we fall into that trap of thinking that these are the feasts of Christians, these are the feasts of the Jews, or these are the feasts of Muslims. But we need to understand that these feasts are feasts of the Lord, especially the three major feasts, which are Passover, Pentecost, and Tabernacle. These were very important feasts of the Lord, and they were compulsory to be observed by all the children of Israel without exception. So Pentecost, Passover, Tabernacle were very important feasts. And unfortunately, we as Christians, we only focus on Passover. We only sometimes, especially if you are a Pentecostal believer or in a Pentecostal church, you are going to take the Feast of Pentecost also seriously. But how many in the church or among Christian circles do give importance to the Feast of Tabernacle? Not very much. But to the children of Israel, God commanded them, especially concerning those three feasts, to observe them. They were very important to God. So they have to be also very important to you and I as Christians, as believers. So we are going to introduce this theme today, which is Pentecost. We talked about it. We have songs about it, the Pentecost. But most of the time we don't have a deep understanding and don't know what it means really, this Feast of Pentecost. But I think that with these devotions, as we are going to cover many subjects related to this theme, I hope you will be enlightened and get a deeper understanding of the Feast of Pentecost. So let us read quickly in Leviticus chapter 23 from verse 15 to 16. The Bible says that you shall count from the next day after the Shabbat, from the day that you brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be completed. Even to the next day after the 7th Sabbath, you shall number 50 days, and you shall offer a new meal offering to the Lord. Why did I give you this text as a key text for our introduction to this theme of Pentecost? It's going to help us to understand the meaning behind this word we talked about, and we even have songs and hymns about it. Pentecost comes from Greek, especially in the New Testament. The Greek word which is used for Pentecost means 50th. That's the meaning of this word Pentecost. It only means 50th. And here we have an equivalent in Hebrew. The Jewish people called it Shavuot, not Pentecost. They call it Shavuot. Shavuot means only 50th. And here in Leviticus, God gave Moses instruction to convey to the children of Israel in order to understand when they have to observe or to celebrate this feast of the Lord called Pentecost or Shavuot in Hebrew, which means 50th. So they had to count 7 Sabbaths must be completed. 7 Sabbaths means 7 weeks. And it's going to say even to the next day after the 7th Sabbath, which means the 50th day, that's when you are going to celebrate the Shavuot. That's when you are going to celebrate the Pentecost. So Pentecost was a feast that was celebrated 50 days after Passover. That's what it was all about. 50 days after Passover. How they had to count it? They have to have 7 weeks, full 7 weeks, full 7 Sabbaths, and the next day plus 1. 7 weeks or 7 Sabbaths means 49 days. And even on the next day, which means 49 plus 1, it makes 50. So the children of Israel had to celebrate the Shavuot or the Pentecost the 50th day. So Pentecost only means 50th day after Passover. Let me just give you another text quickly in Exodus chapter 34, because the children of Israel had many names for this feast that we call Pentecost. Of course, they called it Shavuot, which means 50th, but they had many names for that feast, that special feast. In Exodus chapter 34, let me read the verse 22. It says this: "You shall observe the feast of weeks with the first fruit of wheat harvest, and the feast of harvest at the end of year." This is very interesting. So the children of Israel called this feast that is the subject of our theme, Pentecost. They used to call it Feast of Weeks. Feast of Weeks because it was 7 weeks after, it came 7 weeks after the Passover. It was at the 7th Sabbath plus the day after, which means the 50th day. So they called this feast the Feast of Weeks, and they call it also the Feast of Harvest. The Feast of Harvest. When you hear the Feast of Harvest, it's about Pentecost. Pentecost is the Feast of Harvest. It's the Feast of Weeks. This is very important for us to understand as we are introducing our theme, the Pentecost Feast, the Feast of Pentecost. It was about the 50th day after the Passover, and it was called the Feast of Weeks, the Feast of Harvest. This is very important. So we are going to stop there for our introduction, and we will pick up from there next time. Until then, God bless you, and see you next time. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.